Good morning, everybody. Benjamin here. Let's do another quick video. Just some more thinking, really. Um, Thinking over things. Started a workout group with a real solid group of guys, and that's been going very well. And I'm just trying to get into a rhythm here. Again, of course, I'm talking divorce, right? Post-divorce. And I'm gonna try to make this video short, right? Uh, Something that I have noticed in my own life that I've noticed from the beginning of really when my marriage fell apart, right? And then leaning into being a single parent, particularly raising a young boy, and then just the absolute assault on masculinity, masculine traits, so on and so forth that's going on in our culture. Um, I know I sound like a pessimist when I say this, and I'm not a doomer. I'm not a black pillar. I would say I am. I mean, I'm kind of a pessimist by nature, but I'm not an absolute black pillar. I think that good things still happen to good people and bad people. Um, Scripture talks about that. God sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Um, Good things, bad things happen to everybody. I don't care who you are. Uh, the thing of marriage, it's a good thing. I'm pro marriage, probably more than most people, and extremely anti divorce. But once you've gone through something like this and you kind of see the writing on the wall, you're pretty sure that you're not going to do that again, right? And so, I mean, that's still, of course, yet to be seen for me, but it just doesn't seem like it's the best way forward, right? So, and there's a lot of people like that. If you listen to me at all, you've heard about the coming marriage collapse, um, the rise of the she economy, so on and so forth. That sounds all very negative, and I know that, but minus a religious awakening in the West or some kind of outside stressor, being like financial reasons, things like this, the marriage rate will just continue to plummet, and that people are getting divorced, and then people just aren't remarrying. So I hate it. I hate that just as much as anybody else. I think it's a crock of shit, and I wish it wasn't that way. But for a lot of people, this is reality, and for a lot of men, the future is single. So I just want to touch on that really quick, and that's all. And how I think this is a good thing. I don't. Of course, I wish everybody can get married, live happily ever after, have lots of children, and that people would grow to a ripe old age and see their children's children. That's fantastic. But as things sit right now, that's not the case. I think the probability of that, of society righting itself, is high. So that's good. I think, in fact, I think to some point, hopefully it's inevitable. The craziness will have to stop, and people are going to start putting their foot down on things, which is good. Okay, but if you are single, you have been divorced, and you're pretty hell bent on raising your kids by yourself, and you this applies to married guys and not married guys. Okay, um, working on your honor. I did a video about that about a year ago, something like that. But something I'm seeing more and more again, and a few things that brought this to light again for me, is working on honor society, working on men working on their own honor, right? I'll give you an example of this. I was talking to this lady the other day. She might be watching this. I was talking to her the other day, and she was talking about how she's a pretty lady, and she knows that people cater to her. I don't want to speak for her, but these were kind of her words, not mine. She knows that she has life pretty good. She's got a great career. She's kind of one of those boss babes. She's attractive, and people just kind of give her stuff. She doesn't have to really try hard, and she's noticed that, actually. And I started talking to her about solipsism, like female solipsism specifically. And she was telling me how the other day this guy, if I'm remembering right, cut her off in traffic. They were backing out of this parking lot, and she was so mad at this guy and how this like guys are pigs, and he flipped me off. And um, she there was no accident, and there was no fender bender, no one hit each other, but she was pissed at this guy. How dare he, back into her parking lot like as she was backing out at the same time type of thing, and almost hit her. And I was telling her, and she's like, well, he flipped me off. And then I got out of my vehicle because she wanted to confront the guy, and the guy flips her off and drives off. And I'm not saying this is right, but I'm saying this is a thing. I said, do you know that he did the most merciful thing he could to you? And she was super pissed and hot-headed at the guy. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, look, you guys almost got into a fender bender, but you didn't. And you were so heated that you got out of your vehicle to confront the guy, and he flips you off and says some words and drives off. I said, that is the most merciful thing that he could do to you. That is him honoring you and being a good man by doing that. What do you mean? Son? She just couldn't understand that. And I said, look, because if guys do something like that to each other, and then a guy gets out, and then the other guy gets out, in fact, I've seen this in traffic. Two guys get out, and they over driving in their cars, and this road rage happens, right? And these two guys get out, and they start beating the shit out of each other. That's a true story. And I thought, if you would have been a guy, that might have been different. But guys know that if they cross the line too far, violence is probable. It's probable. And maybe it should be. No guns or knives involved, of course, in my opinion. Though oftentimes things escalate to that. And at that point, if guys push each other too far, it's a matter of their honor, right? And I'll go into another talk about this maybe soon, about how husbands and wives communicate and why oftentimes the man goes silent. It's him being honorable to back out, right? And so for this guy as well, it's like, you know what? If you got out and you approached his car and you start sticking your finger in his face, and let's say, God forbid, you do something like put hands on the guy or start yelling at something, and he gets out and he starts posturing, it's like, you know what? It's better that the guy left. You got the good end of the stick there, because at minimum, he just flipped you off and maybe yelled some curse words at you, and he drove away. Good. No one got hurt, right? So he's actually doing an honorable thing by just leaving. If he would have hit your car, something would have been different, but that didn't happen. So he was actually trying to remove himself and do the right honorable thing by leaving you alone, even though to you it didn't feel like it because you didn't get the last word or whatever it was, right? So talking about regaining your honor as a man, or trying to build a better name, right? I'll give you an example of this. In the Bible, in the book of Samuel, the King David and King Saul, I guess King Saul really was the king. And there was a point in there, Saul was trying to kill David through much of his life, right? And David kept running and getting out of his way and stuff like this. But Jonathan, Saul's son, was David's best friend. So David held Saul and his son Jonathan in high regards. And there was a point where Saul was taking a shit in a cave. And David happened to be in that cave when those guys snuck in there to do their business. And David, instead of, his coat was sitting there, instead of coming up behind him and taking him out, something like that, like he could have, he just cuts off a piece of his coat. And then as soon as they all leave, David comes out and shows him, he shows him a piece of the coat. Like, look, I could have had you, but I didn't. I'm doing the right thing here. And through things like this, David grew a good name for himself. He became a very honorable man he could have committed acts of violence, but he didn't. And Saul continued to try to kill him. And then later on, when King Saul and his son, Jonathan, die, even though they were enemies, technically, King David mourned the loss of his friend Jonathan and the king Saul. He mourned them and paid tribute to them, right? And so there was this um, regard for their life and regard for their position, and this made David an honorable man. I watched a couple times recently, or at least once. I watched through this John Wick 4, and then I played through pieces of it again recently, and it has that same type of code of conduct where you have um, these guys that are enemies, but they call each other friends, and they're putting each other in high regard, and they're kind of one-upping each other. And throughout the film, a couple of times, these guys that are enemies that are trying to kill each other, but they have these kind of sit downs and these honorable moments amongst them, where he'll refer to the other person as their friend, even though they're actually warring. And so there's this real code of honor and this code of conduct amongst each other to follow the brotherhood, as it were. In fact, that's referred to in there a few times, the brotherhood. And so these guys had a good name within their brotherhood, but they're all under this kind of system. And this is something very beautiful. There's a point in there where these guys kind of, you could tell they really regret their, what's the word here? They regret the deals with the devil that they've made. They regret the deals with the devil that they made. And now they have to answer for those making the agreements with the devil, as it were. And it's interesting because you have these older guys, they're kind of old warriors, very seasoned. And then you have a younger guy who's kind of the main bad guy. And he's kind of a hothead, and he's kind of bending the rules. He's kind of just breaking them just enough, right? But he's still kind of in this code. They're all kind of living underneath this code. And it's really beautiful to see these old seasoned guys that just really regret their decisions. And they kind of mourn the loss of their, let's say, their innocence. And so they have to fight their way out because of codes that they've broken. And now they made the deal with the devil, they shook the hands, and now they have to fight their way out of it, kind of is what it is. And it's really beautiful to see this kind of preferring others before them, even if it's their enemy. And I read this book a long time ago, well before I was married, well before I had my son. And I have it here somewhere. I couldn't find it in all my books, but I have it here somewhere. And it's called Raising a Modern Day Knight. Raising a Modern Day Knight. And there's a point in there where you have these like these knights, these brave warriors, right? And they're all sitting around talking about this brave warrior. He was the best of all of us. He was the head and tails above the rest. He was such a great leader. He was braver than anybody I've ever seen. He was awesome in battle. These kind of things. They were really promoting this guy. But he wasn't on their side. He was an enemy. He was an enemy of theirs. And he had died in battle. And so they give him kind of like here in Scripture, where they give him this brave tribute. This guy was a great soldier. He was a great leader. He was a great, very skilled in what he did. He was the best of all of us, right? And so there was this really awesome kind of bro code, let's say, that is in there. There's another movie too, Troy, that one with Brad Pitt. There's a really beautiful point in there where he kind of loves his enemies. He mourns the fact that he died, and he mourns, the main character mourns the fact that he killed this brave warrior, and he cries over his death. It's really beautiful. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is post-divorce, and if you are maybe that's not that you don't want to marry again or try again, and I hope everybody gets that opportunity if they want that. But for a lot of guys, we're finding ourselves in these guy communities. I have two that I'm very happy to be a part of because I need them. But okay, you're rebuilding your life. You're rebuilding your life as a single man. This is your way forward. You're pretty sure this is the way forward. So what do you live for now when you don't have a spouse to live for and to act on their behalf? You find a brotherhood. You find a brotherhood. Let me read this. Jack Donovan, A Sky Without Eagles. He talks about having a brotherhood. Very important. Not a Christian writer, not a faith-based writer. In fact, he's an atheist. But he makes some amazing points about finding a tribe of men to be a part of. This is important for all of us. he talks about fighting against this globalism, this modernity that's going on, right? That's just undercutting the legs of men and masculinity, okay? It says globalist universalism is a threat to every tribe of men. It is a threat to all of our identities and to the identities yet undreamed of. It is a great eraser, a creeping consumerist, nothing that erodes history and ancestry and self-determination of men. Tribal brotherhood is its natural obstacle and opposite. As a theorist of masculinity, I work in the service of brotherhoods everywhere. I work in the service of the idea of masculinity and the idea of brotherhood, without which masculinity is little more than a work ethic that makes men easy to manipulate. When men are asked to strive and struggle and sacrifice and prove themselves worthy, they need to ask why, what for, to whom, and in the service of what. And his argument here, it says, the brotherhood is my best answer. So if you have to prove yourself anymore at this point, if you're highly likely to be a single man in the West, proving yourself honorable on behalf of your brotherhood. And in that vein and in that mode moving forward and getting on with your life. If anybody's interested, if you're up here in Northern Colorado, I have started a workout group, and it's going well. And I would love to see more people come. Right now, it's all guys. It's actually open to women as well. But at least the classes that I have right now, I'm putting men through exercises. We're going through circuit training, and we're doing self-defense as well. If anybody's interested in just, you need a tribe, man. You can't sit around all day and play video games and get fat. You got to get out, get exercise, get fresh air, and get around a brotherhood. It doesn't have to be exercise, of course. It could be other things. But I think the way forward for a lot of us who are single is we have to find a healthy brotherhood to prove ourselves honorable in the midst of that group, to gain, I would say, gain a good name for ourselves in that group. You don't have to prove yourself to anybody. You don't have to, if you're just not remarrying, you're not going to chase and go through that rigmarole again. And it's like, I need a brotherhood. Even if you're in a relationship, doesn't matter. You need a brotherhood. You need a cohort of men to come around and encourage you and to grow with, let's say. So that's all I'm saying. Find a brotherhood. Work on your honor amongst this brotherhood. And it's time to build. Post-divorce, time to rebuild. It's good. Have a good day, you guys.